Hi, Communication Development and Disorders class. This is lecture number 5, and today we're going to be talking about preschoolers. Some things that you need, your notebook, of course. Go ahead and turn to the table of contents and label this preschoolers, and then go ahead and turn to your next clean page for your notes and label the top of that. Make sure you have a page number there and that you go back in the table of contents and put your page number there. There is no graphic organizer for this one. You're just going to do your notes in your notebook. You are going to toggle back and forth. I think there's about 4 videos through this, so you do need a strong internet connection. So let's get started. Just like we did with infancy and toddlers, we're going to go through these 5 levels of language, and just like how we started with the other 2 ages, we're going to start off with our phonological knowledge, but this is specifically in preschoolers. Vowel sounds are acquired earlier than consonant sounds with our preschool kiddos. And although they cannot break apart words into sounds, they can begin to identify rhyming sounds. And so they can't, again, break up. If I were to say cat, they couldn't say k, ah, t. But they could say that it rhymes with bat, or schmat, or fat, or mat. And so there are a lot of shows that understand this about our preschool friends, and that they are really meeting those kids where they are. So at this time, I want you to pause this, and I want you to watch the Super Y video that is located in the module for preschool, and I want you to tell me what is Red, that's the main character, well, the character in the specific clip, what is Red doing and how does that benefit preschoolers? So go ahead and pause and then come back to us. So hopefully you enjoyed seeing Red do her little rhyming song. As you can see also, preschoolers begin to try to match speech to print, and she was doing a pretty good job at establishing the concept of print through her little song. And so we're rhyming, we're singing, and we are showing the concept that there are printed words that go along with the verbal words that kids hear. Kids will also begin to read to others what they have written, even if it doesn't look like something that we think that we think is high level writing it actually is. So let's look at an example of a preschool writing. So if we look at this, this is from Megan. She is 4 years old. She tries to write her name. She does the letter MGT. You can probably see MGT, and then an A over here, and an O further down the page. Her first attempt is at the top left-hand side because she knows the print starts in which direction it flows. She then draws and scribbles and does MGT again twice, there and there. Lastly, she draws a circle around the drawing and the words as if to signal that they all belong together. All these people go together. So Megan shows us that she knows how to do some stuff. She knows how to, that print starts in the top left-hand corner and goes left to right, and it goes from top to bottom. She knows how to draw a face and maybe a body here. She does some other little shapes that could be letters. Look like she has an O here. She knows how to write MGT. She shows us that she can write a capital M, a lowercase g, a lowercase t, a capital A, and a capital O. And that she understands that letters in words are close together, and that's something that some kids don't understand, but she knows that those should be grouped together. And so this is just a really common example of preschool writing, and it shows us a lot of stuff. As educators, when you look at a sample work, we see things that maybe parents or other professionals don't specifically see. If we look at semantic knowledge in preschool kiddos, their vocabulary expands and becomes more refined or precise. Their new experiences expand their language. So maybe they now go to preschool, and so they see different types of furniture, different types of friends. They're going on field trips. Those new experiences are expanding their language. At this time, we really estimate that their vocabularies are between 800 and 1,000 words. And there are some vocabulary words that you need to add into your vocabulary range here. Assimilation, accommodation, overextension, and underextension. So assimilation is the idea that a new concept comes into an existing schema. So let's say that I think all cows are black and white, okay? The first time you see a brown cow, you now have new schema. So that new concept is already fitting into a file folder you already had. So the child already had a file folder of cows, and inside that file folder it told them they have 4 legs, they're big, they go moo, they're black and white. Now we're assimilating a new concept in there, and so now in that file folder I also have brown cows. If you look at accommodation, accommodation is a schema changed to incorporate a new concept, okay? So if I am looking at a horse, and I've always thought that horses were cows because they were black and white and they had 4 legs just like cows, and someone tells me, oh, that's actually a horse, now my schema is changed to incorporate this new concept. So now I have a new file folder that has horse in it. Overextension is a word that is used too broadly. If I think all red things are candy, and so I'm given a cherry and they think that that's a piece of candy. Okay, that's the words used too broadly. A lot of times you will see kids who, if they grow up in a dog home, they'll say doggy, 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 doggy for anything that has 4 legs and fur. That's overextension, used too broadly. Underextension is if something is used too narrowly. And so if they only think that a cat looks just like their cat, and that a cat can actually be like one of those weird, bald cats. But that is underextension, okay? So we need to make sure that we know those. Semantic knowledge in preschoolers continued. Written language of storybooks exposes children to more precise and varied vocab than they may experience in daily conversations. This is why books and text is better than TV shows, because you're about to listen to Where the Wild Things Are, and you're going to hear certain words like gnashed, roared, mischief, rumpus. If they were to watch a cartoon of that, there would actually be teeth gnashing, but they wouldn't directly attach the word gnash to that sound. And so we are actually teaching them these new vocabulary words through specifically reading to kids. So what I would like for you to do is I would like for you to pause this, go into our module, find Where the Wild Things Are. It is a reading, I believe from the author, but it is a reading of Where the Wild Things Are. I want you to note what type of language is used. I've given you a clue. Gnashed, roared, mischief, rumpus is all really fun words. Also think about the figurative language that's used there. I want you to try to listen to this book like you're listening to it for the first time. So pause it and come back to us. I hope you enjoyed Where the Wild Things Are. Hopefully you heard some really fun vocab words that kids would like to know, some really good spicy figurative language. These stories are also help children create their own stories. Stories created by children provide evidence of their development of semantic knowledge. So if you hear a child saying, Once upon a time, they've picked that up from reading other books, or if you read a lot of nonfiction books and they are wanting to kind of recreate those nonfiction books, it is their semantic knowledge developing. Okay, let's roll to syntactic knowledge in preschoolers. Syntactic knowledge, we are seeing how they are beginning to speak differently. So telegraphic speech, how they are building these sentences, the syntax. Their telegraphic speech is between 2 and 3 words that they're running together, okay? So instead of ball, it could say, me throw ball, or throw ball to me. Several just small little sentences, that's their telegraphic speech. Scientists use something called the MLU, and that's the mean length of utterance. And what they're looking at there is how long are these little utterances? How long are these little phrases that kids are saying? And you'll notice if you go into a preschool classroom that some kids can carry on, and some kids really keep their little sentences really short and sweet. And really everyone develops at their own pace, but if a child is far exceeding how much and the length of their sentences, or they're really far behind, that's when we start to count those type of things. Noun and verb phrase complexities increases at this stage with the use of conjunctions. If you have ever been around a preschooler, they will say blah, 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 because, and they keep talking. And then they just say another fact because they want to tell longer sentences, and they get more chatty, and it's because of those conjunctions. They can begin to use negation. I want no milk. They can say what is displeasing them in life. Interrogatives, they're going to start to ask questions and again pull up, lift the tone of their voice up at the end of that sentence. Mommy hurt finger. They know how to do that. And then they're beginning to understand passive sentences, when adults use sentences that maybe don't need to be answered, or aren't specifically for very specific purposes. Preschoolers begin to pick up on that. Morphemic knowledge in preschoolers, they begin to develop knowledge of inflectional morphemes and then later derivational morphemes. So again, those plural, possessions, verb tenses. They do not learn through imitation though, rather through experimental activities. This is probably in my top 5 of videos, is this WUG test by, I believe, Jane Burko. But I want you to watch. It's called WUG test number 1 and then WUG test number 2. And I want you to take notes on things that you notice. And it is this idea that this scientist, Mrs. Burko, she is, I believe it's Dr. Burko, that she is really proving that kids do not learn this part of language through imitating their parents, but just straight up experimenting with their language. And that's why preschoolers will say some funny things, because they're just figuring it out. So pause this and then come back to us. I hope you enjoyed Dr. Burko and her WUG test. I think it's really fascinating, and I know now the next time you listen to a preschooler, you're going to be listening to them a little bit differently. Pragmatic knowledge in preschoolers. They begin to manipulate speech to achieve certain goals with different audiences, okay? So they're going to learn that I'm going to speak differently to mom as I do teacher. You'll probably see this a lot. They will even change their speech for grandma to mom, to dad. I always think it's interesting. Some kiddos will act very babyish with a certain group of people, and then they get to school and they're independent, lovely little creatures. It's because they're learning their pragmatic knowledge. I don't act a fool in front of teacher, just my parents. Dramatic play activities. Their children may use different variations of language depending on where the play is taking place. So are they working at the store or the doctor's office, a restaurant, a bank? All of those things they're going to pull out different vocabulary words for, and that's good. That's why play is so important at this age. Storytelling. provides opportunity to see how they create monologues. And so we want them telling stories. We want them talking, and we can figure out a lot about their language abilities by the type of stories that they tell. And then they become aware that print rather than pictures are telling the story. They are going to have that print awareness that, oh, that person's not looking at the pictures, they're looking at the words. And even if they are holding a book, they'll move their hands if their hands are covering the words, so you can see the words. They know the magic lies in that alphabet, not so much the pictures. That is our 5 levels of language and our sweet preschool friends. I hope that you learned something, and I will see you guys tomorrow.